Hey, Crawlspace listeners, it's Lance here, and Tim and I wanted to wish you all a happy holiday season, and in the spirit of the holidays, we want to replay to you one of our favorite conversations. This one is from 2018. It's with an individual named Rae Paoletta. She wrote an article on Krampus that Tim and I immediately took a liking towards, and we decided to have her on. The result is a really fun chat about the history of Krampus and what we want to become a holiday tradition to replay these conversations to you in their original form. And we want to wish you all a happy and safe holiday season, and make sure your children are behaving because Krampus will be joining us right after a couple of commercial breaks.
Welcome to Crawlspace. I'm Tim here today with Lance in the Crawlspace studios in Wormtown. Lance, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing very well. How are you today?
I'm well. It's Christmas Eve as this episode drops on December 24th, 2018, and it's right in time for the scariest figure of all, Lance.
The scariest holiday figure of all, which arguably could be Santa Claus. Which is, I'm looking around the Crawlspace studio now, and I don't see a chimney, so I'm not so concerned that we will be visited by him tonight, but I did leave out some milk and cookies for him.
We were visited by Rae Paoletta, a journalist who wrote about Krampus in an article for Inverse. And so we talked to her about the legend of Krampus. If you don't know what this is, you need to just Google the words Krampus. It starts with a K, Krampus, and you'll check out some of these these vintage postcards and some imagery, very unsettling. And as we talk about in the interview, he's kind of the yin to Santa's yang.
Yeah, the checks and balances, like we say in the interview, that fall into place just in the world in general. There's a good guy, there's a bad guy, there's a good cop, bad cop, and it's a fun interview because we all learn together about different elements of Krampus and also different Christmas figures that we didn't know existed, like the cats and the Christmas witch. Rae had taught us about this new thing about this Christmas witch. You'll hear about. Her article is Why Krampus Will Drag You to Hell Tonight, and it's really cool, and it's for inverse.com.
Yeah, I mean, really, when you break down the differences between Santa and Krampus, or, for example, Batman and the Joker, these people, these entities really aren't that different, you know? So I think it's kind of an interesting conversation, and it's right in time for the holidays. So happy holidays out there, everyone in Crawlspace land. Follow us on Twitter at CrawlspacePod. Thank you. Welcome to Crawlspace. Rae Paoletta. We are here talking about Krampus. How are you, Rae?
Hey, I'm doing great. Very excited to talk about my favorite Christmas hero.
Christmas hero?
Hero?
Yeah, I'm definitely Team Krampus personally. Like, I don't like that, Santa's so boring.
Well, I was going to save this question for later on. Rae, you wrote an article for Inverse.com, Why Krampus Will Drag You to Hell Tonight, and it's a great article, but you just said that you don't like dealing with this boring Santa Claus thing. My first question was, isn't Santa Claus scary enough? Like, why do we have to have Krampus?
Well, all the pictures, that's a good point, because all the pictures I know of, myself as a wee tot, every time I'm sitting on Santa's lap, I was just bursting into tears. So that's a nice family memory for my parents for the rest of forever. I've never been a big Santa fan, but Krampus is, I think Krampus is just misunderstood. I think he's trying his best. Yeah, so what? He's half goat. It's who among us, sometimes we all have bad hair days and stuff.
I consider Lance to be a half demon. but not so much half goat. But so Krampus is half demon and half goat. So tell us a little bit about the roots of this guy.
Sure. So, like most things that are folklore, it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly where the Krampus legend begins, but we know it. We can basically trace it back to Alpine Europe, Bavaria, that region of Europe. We know that even today, the Krampus story is still told in places like Germany and Austria. Basically, the Krampus is the German quote-unquote Christmas devil. He's kind of like the counterpart of St. Nicholas. Some say like the shadow of St. Nicholas, things like that. On the night before December 6th, which marks the Feast of St. Nicholas, that's when Krampus has his night out, his boys' night out, called the Krampus Nacht. And, he just gets to have a few hours to do him, like run around, search for bad kids, take them back to hell. He may or may not be eating them. We really don't know, but that's kind of the basis of it.
One thing that struck me as new and interesting news in regards to Krampus is the December 5th or 6th. I thought that this was a Christmas thing around the same time as we all celebrate Christmas, December 25th. But you're saying that the origins put him around the 6th of December?
I think it's actually the night of December 5th. So the night before the Feast of St. Nicholas is when the Krampus Nacht actually takes place. However, in some towns in Austria and Germany, there is something where there's a quote-unquote Krampus run, and that pretty much takes place anytime during December. It's when lots of drunk people dress up in half demon, half goat costumes and run around. So it's kind of like SantaCon, but like way scarier, which is a thought that I can't even fathom, because that's pretty much the scariest thing I can think of in New York City. But yeah, this is it's definitely a level up.
Sounds like quite a scene.
How do you dress up?
Yeah.
How do you dress up as a half goat? Is that the bottom half? That's your legs, right? How do you run like that? What do you put on?
You know what? It's like if you drink enough beer, you're gonna figure it out.
You know what?
Yeah, hooves, I think, is the obvious answer here, Lance.
I take that back. I have drank enough to think I was a half goat. So
you already
Honestly,
are half demon.
Yeah, I feel like every time I have like a few gin and tonics, I'm like, I'm a demon.
Now there's a pretty a lot of these vintage sort of like postcards that you'll find on the internet, pictures of Krampus and things that he does to these children. He it seems like he kidnaps them. There's one here where he looks like he's ripping a boy's ears off.
Mm-hmm.
There's one where he's ripping a girl's hair off, like scalping her, it seems
trying
like.
to pull her ponytail off.
Yeah. Very disturbing.
That's what happens, though, when you're a kid and you lose in Fortnite, is that Krampus comes and takes you away.
So now wait a second. So I'm very confused here. So Santa Claus started as sort of like a way to get kids to behave a little bit better. And then Krampus is like that idea, like on steroids. Am I reading this incorrectly?
No, I think you're totally right. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, there's like this German book called Der Struwelpeter. I know I'm butchering the pronunciation, but it's actually like a similar kind of philosophy. Like, it's a book that shows very graphic and disturbing stories about kids who do bad things, like they don't brush their hair and their hair turns into something like the guy from Eraserhead. Like, all these horrible, crazy things happen in the book to teach kids how to behave. And I feel like there is some kind of parallel here with the Krampus story, right? Like, it's an exaggerated figure to basically scare the shit out of kids into behaving well.
Yeah, I will say, as a parent, there's kind of a fine line between rewarding a kid for good behavior and sort of threatening bad behavior, or punishment,
terrifying the F out of them.
Yeah, punishment for bad behavior. So I'm this whole thing is new to me.
That's why I kind of like to think of Santa and Krampus as kind of like the good cop, bad cop routine. the two of them together maybe are where you strike that balance, really.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I agree. It's very lethal weaponish.
Yeah, yin yang. Yeah,
Right, the
Santa
yin
can
to
be
the
like,
yang.
yeah, he can be like, hey, little Davy, don't make my boy here get all mad at you and stuff you in his sack.
Yeah, make a stew
Yeah.
out of you, a you stew.
He'll do it. This is not the first time he's done it.
So I got to wrap my head around the whole kids being bad and Krampus will visit you.
Mm-hmm.
The time frame is a little off for me. I feel like it's a bit unfair for children. You have to be good in order for Santa to visit you, and that's on the 25th. So if you're bad, I guess there's different levels of being bad. If you're naughty, you go to Santa's naughty list and you don't get gifts.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're super naughty and don't comb your hair, then Krampus will visit you like 20 days earlier.
See, I can see this a little bit because it's a long season. The Christmas season, the holiday season is very long, and kids start getting crazy in the beginning of December, really right after Thanksgiving, because they know it's coming. So this is like two chances.
true.
So you got like a very short window. But they
You
didn't
need it, trust me.
They don't have Thanksgiving in Bavaria.
Well, that's what I'm saying here. Like, my personal experience, you need the elf on the shelf or the threat of Santa or the threat of Krampus even to control your damn kids.
I love this kind of like this is strategizing and like gaming children's behavior to make them good.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good.
Seriously,
Someone's got to do it though.
Yeah, some of these images that are out there of Krampus, especially the old ones that you can get from various websites, their various postcards, like Tim said. I mean, they're straight up. You giggle at first, and then you really look at it, and it's very, very strange. Are you disturbed sometimes with your real strong support that you have of Krampus? Does that disturb you?
It is pretty disturbing, but I think that I would argue that the Santa myth is also pretty disturbing. Like this strange man just shoots himself down my chimney and, like leaves. Maybe he'll leave me coal or something. It's like, that's just breaking and entering. I don't want a stranger in my house.
You might be turning me into a staunch supporter of Krampus as well. You know what the creepiest part of Santa is?
Stalking.
Well, that, but you feed him cookies and milk. He drinks
right?
milk. He stands there in your living room and drinks your milk in the middle of the night.
Lance, I don't know if you know this. He actually doesn't, but
I don't trust people that like just drink milk by itself. Like, first of all, that's some like real scary stuff.
Look at any historical or any historical reference to someone who drinks milk by themselves, and you've got an evil person.
Seriously, yeah, like
is it Anton Chigurh?
Terrifying.
So now does Krampus, does he have a pitchfork, or is it some kind of like wicker whip thing? Is that what does he have for weapons?
I mean, and like a lot of the old, if you look at very old like postcards, I mean, he's always depicted with different things. I mean, some of them it seems almost like a birch rod, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, we have a special guest here, Adrian Peterson, and he can identify what he's got here for his particular variety of switch.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a jagged broomstick, like the end of a jagged broom, just not the stick part. And it seems like that's what he uses to maybe whip kids. In one of these pictures, he's flying with the kids like it's this giant broom. And they're flying somewhere. What's really unsettling about a lot of these old postcards is that the kids don't look that disturbed. Like they look like it's like it was inevitable. It's like, oh, this is my fate now. Like they've accepted their fate.
It's like the kids know they've done something bad. I kind of always wondered like what you had to do to like be on Krampus's bad side, because like my feeling is you did something really bad.
Yeah, let's go through a thought experiment here.
Yeah, are we going into the different tiers of bad behavior?
Sure, like talking back,
Talking back to your parents, is that something that Krampus would get you for, or is it something that parents would contact Krampus about, and then Krampus makes the decision?
Right. How do you reach out to Krampus if you're a parent desperate of some order?
Or does he just know? All right, we're gonna put the ball in your court on this one.
I mean, I think there's got to be a really high bar. So talking back to your parents is like, I feel like, I think it depends on, how frequent, how severe this is. I mean, I think that, like, if you're ignoring your parents because, again, let's use the Fortnite example, right? Let's see, if you spend all day playing Fortnite, that might just be mildly annoying, just kind of like Santa, his reign, we'll leave you some coal. But, if you're a consistent, like, let's say you're using Xbox to, like, taunt kids and make fun of them and make them cry. Or maybe you're making me cry on an Xbox, in which case you're definitely going to see Krampus this year.
All right. Now, the Catholic Church seemed to have some issues with Krampus at one point in history, notably around World War II, and it seems like before that as well. That's kind of crazy. So it's assuming that it's like a devil-like figure, I take it?
I mean, that's also possible. I think that also they didn't like the kind of debauchery that celebrated the Krampus festivities, the Krampus Loft, I think it's actually called. It's like the Krampus Run. I don't think that they liked that kind of lore, and I don't think that they liked the whole idea of, this sort of devilish figure.
Now, what about the movies, the Krampus movies? Have you seen these? Are you a big fan of these?
Oh, yeah. I saw that one a few years ago with my friend. We got super drunk and went and saw it.
Nice.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I had such a good time. It's great. It's like my favorite Christmas movie.
It's good. Yeah, the Krampus movie with Adam Scott and Toni Collette. And now there was kind of an explosion of Krampus movies, I want to say about 5 years ago. There was like 6 of them made within a 2-year span by different companies, but the best one, the biggest one, is the one I think you're referencing, the one with Adam Scott and Toni Collette. It's the most popular one, called Krampus.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. It's just wonderful. It was like an unexpected hit for me. I'm not really a huge fan of Christmas movies because I'm sort of a Krampus myself. I don't really like Christmas music that much either, but I thought the movie was very dark and fun, and I just highly recommend it for any Krampus heads out there.
I feel like Krampus has a good agent. He went through this period of 2 years where all these movies came out about him and all these articles were written. I feel like he's got a good PR person at the very least. He
dropped a sex tape, I think.
He did.
Really built up his
I think I might.
profile.
I could take that job easily. I would love to be Krampus' communications person or like his PR rep.
Yeah, well, you did a great job with your article here. I wanted to bring up something in your article. It's this one of these images that we were talking about. I don't know if you have it open right now, but it's Krampus in looking very dapper. He's got some sort of riding coat on.
I love this picture.
Yeah, maybe like a smoking jacket type thing. There's his multi-switched weapon or whatever you want to call it there under his arm. His trademark long tongue is out in full form. And he's got a child, which looks like a boy with longish hair, just crying his eyes out in the sack on his back. But the little girl, appears to be praying in front of him. Can you explain this picture? There's also a clover down there at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this looks like the girl is praying that the Krampus she won't meet the same fate as the crying boy in the sack.
I'm gonna have to disagree. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you. It's looking like she has instructed Krampus to take this crying boy because she's got a smile on her face.
Yeah, she doesn't want all of Christmas to be ruined. Like, she doesn't want her Christmas to be ruined. She's like, Krampus, take away my brother because he's gonna ruin Christmas for both of us. And this way, you take him, and he has a ruined Christmas. And not all of us.
I mean, you know what? Sometimes little kids just suck, and like maybe he's just like a crappy little kid. Maybe she's like, get him out of here. I want to have a good Christmas.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
And a thank you to our sponsors. Back to the program.
Now, what's the story with the wicker basket? He's got some kind of Lance described it as a sack, but it seems like in a lot of these old postcards, it's sort of like a basket that he's wearing around his back, and there also seems to be some confusion because he's got some parents in a basket in one of these postcards, and once again, everyone kind of looks like okay with it, like it was inevitable. So he takes away parents too, or I guess if you're put in this basket, you can't jump out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a magic basket.
I would imagine.
I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
So what is the story with the parents? He takes bad parents?
I mean, you know what? In a just world, he probably would, because where do kids learn their bad behaviors from? But their parents.
Yeah, this is true.
Oh, so he's taken them as a preventative measure for like further bad children.
Oh, maybe.
Listen, I mean, you guys are gonna mess this up, so you gotta come in my stack.
What happens to the other kids? They're just left on their own?
I guess that, you know what? Maybe just like raised by wolves or something.
In this one particular postcard, the kids look fine with their parents going away with Krampus. They look kind of gleeful, like they're singing. Although one of them seems to be pulling on Krampus's tail. So mixed messages in a lot of these postcards. A lot of the whole Krampus story, very confusing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe if you're a kid and you see Krampus take away your parents, are like, well, I guess I'm having like pizza for every meal ever. And maybe there's something freeing about that.
Is this the origins of the movie Home Alone, perhaps?
That's a great question. Wow, yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Wow, so Joe Pesci would be Krampus?
Oh my God, I would love a movie in which Joe Pesci is Krampus.
Yeah, let's scrap all conversation about Home Alone. Yeah. And consider Joe Pesci as Krampus for some movie sometime soon.
Yeah, I think he kind of retired, I think. But
what better role to bring him back?
Let's cut this out of the podcast so we don't want any suits out there to steal our ideas.
Yeah, that's true. They have to pay us.
Okay, so talk to us about when you first discovered Krampus, because as Tim and I were doing show prep for this, we acknowledged that we really hadn't heard of Krampus until like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was the movies mostly.
I mean, maybe we kind of heard about this like Christmas devil type character, but yeah, it wasn't until 2 or 3 years ago before I actually saw a picture of Krampus and I was like, oh, that's that Christmas devil thing that we've heard about. When did Krampus enter your life?
So I just find myself down these weird wormholes all the time, and I am Italian American, and in Italian folklore, we have something called the Befana, who's basically like a Christmas witch. And I remember a few years ago I was just reading about the Befana, and then I found I became really interested in the way that other cultures have these figures for their Christmases that aren't just Santa, and I found Krampus. Okay,
so here's a direction that we are going in. The Christmas witch, the Befana. Look at this. I've never heard of this. Now I'm looking up images of that. This is...
Yeah, she's like an old woman.
So she's like a witch that brings you presents?
Yeah, I mean, she flies around on a broomstick. She delivers gifts to good kids. So even though she's like a witch, she's a really good witch.
Okay, maybe she's not so creepy. I just got creeped out for no reason there.
Well, she's kind of somewhere in the middle, I feel like. I don't know. She's flying on a broomstick, like a witch, like a bad witch, but here she's giving you presents. I assume she's sneaking into your house to give you these presents too?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, it's funny because a lot of kids feel excited for the Befana, but they also are a little scared.
I think that's...
She's a little creepy.
Oh, I think that's like Santa Claus, too. I mean, I think it's not the most natural thing for kids to understand. They don't really know what to expect. Oh, you're saying this guy who's got a beard and dresses in blood red breaks into my house... And then he's nice. He leaves stuff. If I'm good and if I'm bad, I could be punished. That's a crazy thing to tell a human who's never heard of that. And you have to try to convince that kid that. It almost feels wrong. I will say, I'm sort of a new parent. My kid is almost 4. It feels wrong. I don't really.
It's lies.
I don't enjoy it, especially the Elf on the Shelf. That is Not a big success in my house so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a weird thing that we tell kids, like, oh, yeah, this guy you've never met, he lives in the North Pole, and also he's humanity's silent judge and jury. Like, why does this guy have free reign to basically like, judge other people? You know, what is he trying to hide?
Right.
And he drinks your milk in the middle of the night.
And he drinks milk by itself voluntarily.
But
nonstop all night for
Oh.
like nonstop.
And somehow everyone's parents are okay with this. Like this, everyone's okay with it. It's like everyone's aware of it.
Is there something that children can leave for Krampus that will alleviate some of his anger and maybe some of the punishment can be lessened? Do you know anything like that in the folklore?
Wow, I have never heard of that before, but I think that honestly, I have some suggestions for what kids could leave. They could, leave good report cards, maybe. Show that they're studying hard in school. They could leave nice little pictures, drawings, like please don't come tonight and put me in your sack, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was thinking more like a dead mouse or something like that. Leave that for Krampus.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because that'll escalate.
Well,
Because don't you just see kids doing something bad and they're like, well, I did that bad thing and I left the dead mouse and he didn't come. So
it's a Slender Man situation.
I don't know. It's like if they do something worse, then they're going to maybe kill the house cat because that's like, it's more meaningful. And then you get into
right. And then you gets into the Slender Man situation and you say, well, I did this for Krampus.
I did this all for Krampus.
Who isn't really necessarily a thing. I was wondering, do you think that this thing that we lie to our children about Santa Claus, and I understand it's supposed to be a good thing, but do you think this is like the root of conspiracy theorists?
Honestly, I think so, and I'll give you from my personal experience. Like, I was always a really skeptical kid. I don't know how. It's just like who I was always, forever. Like I was a skeptical baby or something. And I told my mom when I was 5 years old, Mom, or 6 rather, Mom, there's no Santa. And she was like, yeah, you're right. And my younger brother was like, wait a second, so does that mean there's no Easter Bunny too? And my mom was like, yeah, like my brother's name is Reed. Yeah, Reed, there's no Santa, but there's a rabbit that just leaves eggs all around your house. I mean, she was very real with us. But I think it just goes to show you that Santa is one level of conspiracy theory, but I think the real villain here is the Easter Bunny, which is the scariest thing I could possibly imagine.
I can't agree with you more. That the Easter Bunny flies under the radar in terms of just pure
Constantly.
terror.
Yeah.
What is that? You hunt for eggs. Eggs. Rabbits don't leave.
Rabbits are mammals.
Yeah, Bunny doesn't have anything to do with eggs. Yeah.
Eggs.
Yeah. What's inside the eggs?
Candy.
I don't even know.
Dreams.
How?
Drugs.
This is like, it's a real kind of, must be an eye-opening moment for children. I kind of remember it, like hearing that Santa wasn't real for the first time, but your whole world must kind of collapse in a sense where what else is everyone keeping from me? Like what else is possible now that there's this literal global conspiracy against children?
The moon landing?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, where is the conspiracy end, right? Like, you start thinking when you're a kid, like, well, if there's no, is there no tooth fairy? Is there none of this other stuff that my parents are lying about? What else are they keeping from me? So
who else is lying
I think
to me?
that it's just got to drive you kind of crazy.
Man, it's a wonder that we didn't all have severe exhaustion as children. Because the tooth fairy, the Easter Bunny, Santa, those who knew Krampus, I mean, you're trying to match your behavior to the whims of these like fantastical beings that aren't even real.
Do you think like an adult who is a conspiracy theorist is really like someone who's suffering from PTSD, so to speak, from like being lied to as a kid?
I think that being lied to when you're a kid about things like Krampus and Santa, I think that I think it's a lesson, really. I think it teaches you how to be skeptical and how to question authority, right? I think that's so important. So I think that maybe you might not see that when you're 6, but then you're older and you're like, oh, yeah, maybe my parents don't know everything. Maybe I'm kind of smart. So
would it be fair to say that Krampus is a bit of a anarchist?
I think so. I think that's why I love Krampus so much. He's just kind of like doing his own thing. And he won't drink milk in your house. And I respect that about him. I think he's just a misunderstood dude.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program.
Now, talk to us a bit about Krampus's sexual overtones, because he does seem to have a little bit of a fancy towards the ladies.
I have never, ever thought of that. Can you give me more examples of this?
Well, I'm just referencing some of the postcards where he's on one. There's a postcard where he's on one knee, and it looks to be like he's courting a lady.
Huh, that is super interesting. I guess I don't really have an answer for that, but I will say that in like the Krampus run, it seems like there's more, drunk men dressing up in these outfits, and when guys are drunk, they're just like, ah!
Maybe Krampus derives from a bunch of drunk German men who snuck into homes and tried to court the ladies of their neighborhood.
It's interesting.
I mean, he's got a giant tongue. I don't know if that's a connection, but what is the deal with his tongue as well?
The horns.
The horns. You can make a lot of double entendres there.
He's just a spooky dude. He's just a scary dude.
Now, there's some other kind of monsters around Christmas time in other cultures, like Icelandic Yule cat or Christmas cat, who is not a nice cat and may try to eat you, apparently.
That's not a
my
surprise.
God.
That's not a surprise.
I'm looking this up right now, and as the owner of 2 black cats, I need this like as a poster in my home. This is the best thing I've ever seen. This looks like my cat.
Belsnickel, a male character from southwestern German lore who survives in Pennsylvania Dutch customs, comes to children before Christmas wearing tattered old clothing and raggedy fur. He carries a switch to frighten children and candy to reward them for good behavior.
Those like my
there's
those.
a Krampus influence.
Yeah, I mean, they all kind of sound very similar.
They all kind of sound like my neighbor when I was a kid.
Hans Trapp, who's an anti-Santa from France, certain regions of France.
Hans Trapp.
Hands out punishment to bad children.
Hans out punishment.
Let's see. There's another French one. Pierre Foutard, Father Whipper, begins with an evil butcher who craved children to eat. Okay. The Yule Lads, Icelandic trolls.
Where are you getting this list?
There's this great
the Black
website,
Web?
mentalfloss.com, 8 legendary monsters of Christmas. Gryla. All the Yule Lads answer to Gryla. She's an Icelandic legend and kidnaps, cooks, and eats children who don't obey their parents.
This is all conspiracies generated by parents.
Humanity is twisted.
Totally.
Yeah, I want to circle back real quick, and because we're all learning as we go here about Krampus. I just found out that it is customary to offer Krampus not a glass of milk. We'll all appreciate this. You offer him a glass of schnapps.
Oh.
Yes, Krampus.
Because no one else wants to drink schnapps?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, maybe he's going for a fuzzy navel. Maybe
he wants better breath, probably. I'm guessing peppermint schnapps. It doesn't specify?
No, we're going with the fruit brandy.
Peach.
Yeah, we'll maybe say peach or apricot. He strikes me as an apricot.
Apricot, okay.
Schnapps guy. Yep. So consider everyone, schooled on that one.
There's no real reindeer connection, huh? So that's kind of the one element it seems like we're missing between the Krampus and these other Christmas legends and comparing him to Santa Claus, right? There's no element of reindeer and carrying things other than like sort of this switch thing being a big broomstick in some accounts.
It's like I did not know that schnapps fact at all, but I think it definitely. But I think just he's a bad boy, and he just wants a schnapps to get through the night. I mean, like, we've all worked late before, instead of having a glass of wine, he just likes his peppermint schnapps.
So I'm going to go with a little bit of a, controversial take on this. When you look at the typical images that people have created over the course of time of what the perception of God is, it's this white man with a beard that looks very similar to Santa Claus. And we have Krampus, who has this long red tongue and horns coming out of his head and cloven feet, hooves, if you will. He's half goat. So this is representative of the devil. Is there some correlation here between God and the devil?
I mean, I think it's definitely possible because I feel like that's easy for kids to understand. So it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. I missed one here on this great article here by Mental Floss. They said that there's one called Frau Perchata in Germany and Austria who hands out both rewards and punishments during the 12 days of Christmas, which starts on December 25th. So, again, these dates are kind of extending now. We have like a full month of these creepy characters. And apparently she is best known for punishing you by ripping out your internal organs and replacing them with garbage.
Oh, God.
So,
Yikes.
Wow.
That's what she'll do to you, kids out there.
Wow. The thing is that parents came up with these things. Like, what the hell does this say about parents?
They're desperate to control their children.
Seriously, it happened when their children were probably in their 2s and 3s and 4s at the height of children insanity, and the parents were probably like, "What is the scariest thing? I can't do this anymore. What is the scariest thing?" And you got to come up with your Krampus. Now Krampus is German for claw, right?
That's true.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the claw will be coming for you. That is just terrifying.
No big deal.
No big deal, just the claw. Now, Rae, if you were to bump into Krampus on December 5th, let's say you go out and you have a good just a couple of drinks to celebrate the winter solstice.
Maybe some schnapps.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some schnapps, and you come back home and you stumble upon Krampus in your luxury apartment that you have in New York. What would you say to Mr. Claw?
I'd be like, "So you want a drink?" I feel like he'd be a fun person to drink with. Like he had good stories.
I feel like after a while, though, you'd probably be like wanting him to leave. And then he's like, "Oh, so did I tell you about those children that I abducted and turned into a soup?"
You're like, "Come on, Krampus.
Nice.
You already told me that one 5 hours ago."
He's like, No, these were different children. These were different children.
Like, tell me about the one where you took the parents away again.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm trying to hang out with the Yule Cat personally. I feel like that would be a great addition to my home.
I feel like our interview came to a screeching halt after Tim brought that up, because I can picture you like looking at this right now and looking at your cat. And then
my cats are like, "Don't get suspicious, human."
Well, this has been great, Rae. Do you have any final words on Krampus or this bizarre tradition of scaring our children?
I just want to say that, I encourage people to keep an open mind about Krampus and see that maybe he's not such a scary guy after all. Maybe the good cop, bad cop kind of routine of Krampus and Santa is exactly what we need.
Well, again, if you're good, you're not going to have any negative run-ins with him, in theory, right? So,
So what do you got to worry about?
You better be good for goodness sake.